It's a game of inches. As you know, Marcus, a lack of discipline or focus can cost you the game, right? Because it is a game of inches. No matter how special you are, it's the details because it's a team game. It's not golf, it's football.
Welcome to Athlete Country Club, the podcast built for parents, athletes, and competitors chasing the next level. I'm your host, Marcus McMarion, former Division I quarterback, now founder of Athlete Country Club. I started this show because, like many of you, I had to learn the recruiting process the hard way, traveling up and down the state, spending thousands trying to figure out what actually works. Each week, we break it down through two powerful segments. First, Coach Talk. This is where we sit down with college coaches, director of player personnel, recruiters to uncover exactly what they look for when offering scholarships. No fluff, just the truth from people making the decisions. Second, Athlete CEO. Here we go beyond the field, into habits, training, and mindset that build elite performance and long-term success. You'll hear from strength coaches, nutritionists, sports psychologists, and former athletes who've turned their grind into greatness in business, leadership, and life. Because being an athlete isn't just about playing the game, it's about mastering it and building your legacy beyond it. So whether you're a parent trying to navigate recruiting or an athlete ready to level up, you're in the right place. Welcome to Athlete Country Club, where we turn potential into performance and performance into purpose. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Athlete Country Club. I'm your host, Marcus McMarion. Super excited for our guest today, someone who's very near and dear to my heart, and Coach Tedford. I mean, before we kind of get into football, I want to say, just take some time to say thank you. I mean, I was a graduate transfer from Oregon State who came to Fresno State, just looking for one more chance and just kind of one more opportunity to prove myself and just to the game that I belonged and that I could play at that level. And you gave me that chance, and you didn't promise me anything. You didn't hand me confidence. You challenged me to earn it. And through that process, you gave me something I hadn't felt since high school. It's just belief in myself and just kind of belief in me, and belief built through preparation, belief built through just trust, belief forged through standards, and we're able to win 2 bowl games together, won a Mountain West championship in 18. But more importantly, I think you showed me what internal leadership looks like, and practice was always a lot more difficult than the games. A credit to you and DeBoer and that staff you guys put together. You made sure nothing showed up on Saturday that we hadn't seen already, and survived, Monday through Friday. And that mindset and that standard stays with me today. So, Coach Tedford, I can't thank you enough, and welcome to Athlete Country Club.
Well, thank you. It was what a great fit. It was a pleasure to have you around, and we wouldn't have had the success without you. And the way you came in and just tried to find your place, and I think that really enabled us to be successful because of your approach with it. You had experience, you had passion for the game, you were open-minded and willing to learn, and I think you endeared yourself to the team by the approach that you had when you came. You didn't come as the big-time guy who is from the Pac-10, 12, whatever, and you're the savior. You just tried to fit in, and you worked hard in a short amount of time, because I think you got there maybe with a week left in camp, or maybe even less.
Yeah.
And so, you had to learn the playbook and the whole thing, which is not easy to do, but a tribute to your work ethic and your focus. But your approach and your attitude, I think, was something that was awesome. And, the team really responded to you very, very well. So I want to thank you for all the success that we had, because not only the quarterback and what you did physically and mentally, but emotionally, the leadership that you provided the team. And I remember you standing at the tunnel at halftime of every game, giving everybody 5, running on the field. I'm like, come on, let's go. Let's get out there, But you wanted to make sure that you were connected with your teammates. And, I think that had a lot to do with our success. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate that. And I think only people who have been in college football or played it could truly appreciate what I'm about to say, that it was gut-wrenching in a sense that I had just finished fall camp at Oregon State. Just to jump back into fall camp, I was like, man, my brain had just checked out of fall camp, getting ready for season. I jumped back into it, learning a new offense, a new scheme. And but it was such a just like special time for me. And I think the most important thing for me through that process was just the trust and belief you kind of instilled in me. But it wasn't just something that you got on day one. And that's something I've always respected about you as a coach, is that you give athletes the opportunity to earn your trust. And kind of in your opinion and your coaching philosophy, I mean, what does it truly mean for a player to earn your trust?
Yeah, I think it's a process. It's as we've turned teams around from one win to 10 wins, or at Cal, we did the same thing, one win, and, had a lot of success and bowl eligible and things like that. The number one thing is trust and confidence to instill in the team. And those things, trust is easy to say, but it's hard to earn. It's not just what the player, us trusting the players, it's the players trusting us as coaches. So I think it's really about the culture and the environment that you set. And, really it's about just being honest and open and making good decisions. And, the physical things are there, and you have to watch for work ethic and everybody who's instilled in a common goal, trying to create loyalty and unity. But, you know, I, I don't believe that, I think as far as managing people are concerned, you need to express concern first. That's what builds trust. And they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so that's a process. It's a process of individual meetings, of finding out who they are, knowing them as people. Um, so trust level goes both ways, and so the decisions they make on and off the football field creates trust. I think one of the worst things you could do to violate trust is to be dishonest, because no one's perfect and sometimes people are going to make mistakes, right? But it's about communication and being honest with each other. And as coaches, being honest with the players. And that's how they'll trust you. They may not always like what you have to say, but I think they can trust that you're going to be honest about it. I think one of the worst things you can have in an environment is is a trust level problem where a coach tells them one thing and that's not really true just because that's what they want to hear. And so I think honesty is a big deal, right? And so I think trust and confidence, they go hand in hand, because you have to have trust first, and then you can try to build confidence through the day-to-day things that you're doing and trying to find them doing stuff right, so they feel good about themselves.
Yeah, no, and I feel like every time I've talked or had conversations with young athletes or parents, I feel like I've always tried to iterate that it's not always the most talented athlete, especially in college, that finds the field. I mean, some of the most talented, skilled players I've ever been around, honestly, if you look them up on Google, they probably don't even have any stats in college, a lot of them, to where it's like that's not always the case. And something that to get on the field is a lot different than just being talented. And kind of in your opinion, I mean, like what behaviors separate dependable players from risky ones?
Yeah, I think the ability to make good decisions on and off the field, of guys who are doing things right, of showing up to meetings on time, taking care of the details, right? Because we're so structured, and there's a lot of demands on the player's time, of meetings and being to treatment, being to breakfast on time, and all those things, which I think are really critical values for life in general, just the way to be in life. And so that really is what it comes down to, I think, is trying to get people to do the right thing at the right time and make good decisions. So if they're making good decisions, or they're making poor decisions away from the program, then you have a concern, because to me it's about building life skills, and those life skills will carry over onto the football field. But it's really about preparation. It's about how we prepare. Are you willing to prepare? Because if you're not willing to prepare, no amount of talent's going to overcome that, right? So it's all the little things. You could be the most gifted person there is, but if you don't have the details it takes, and you're taking shortcuts, it's going to come back to bite you, right? So it's really about preparation, discipline, and good decision making.
Yeah, I know you've always kind of preached, and something that's come up too in meetings in the classroom and different things. It's like just how you do anything is how you do everything. And I think just it was kind of reflected a lot of the times when, say, we play Wyoming and it's a sloppy win, but we kind of figured it out. But you would always kind of use that as like a teaching moment for us as we weren't taking care of. The locker room wasn't clean, or we could have said please and thank you, or yes sir, no sir on the plane, and kind of just been a little bit more punctual and taking care of things in respect for our shared space that we had. And I mean, as like a young athlete, I feel like it's really easy to kind of brush that off and say that has nothing to do with me going Division 1. I mean, like, how should a junior high or high school athlete apply this kind of mindset daily?
Right. Yeah. I was very fortunate, Marcus, of growing up around great coaches and who really instilled those type of things. In high school, we had coaches and they demanded us to say, yes, sir, no, sir, thank you, may I, and please. And if they caught you, if you didn't do that, you did 50 push-ups, right? So that was a pretty hefty price to pay, 50 push-ups,
Yeah.
even though at that time, you could do 50 push-ups pretty easy, but there was some teeth in it, right? And so I was really fortunate to grow up with coaches that instilled those type of values and respect, because all those little things, whether it be taking care of your space, it's a small thing, the locker room that you're talking about. If every person just takes care of their own locker, right? It builds a mindset of discipline, right? And discipline is going to carry over to the football field and what you do academically. And so all those things about common courtesy and respect for everyone. I don't care who it is, who you're dealing with. If you remember, one of the things that we would do in camp is be really proactive about educating, right? Instead of being reactive to things that maybe people didn't act right or take the right approach to it. But one of the main things I would always say is, just because we're a football player or on at this university doesn't mean that we're any different than anyone else. We have higher standards because we're in the focus, and poor decisions will be magnified. But we need to treat everybody the same with common respect and dignity. I don't care where it is, to open doors for people and say yes or no, sir, or thank you, or may I, or please. And, that has a direct reflection. Each individual on the team has a direct reflection on the whole team, on the staff, on the whole program, really, right? And so it's important to build those values, because I think those things are going to carry on of how you treat people, the common courtesy, the loyalty that you have to the program, to be willing to do those things, to have a faithfulness and devotion to something that's bigger than just you. But all these little things of, whether it be the locker room or on the plane, if we didn't, one of the things I was very proud of, and I would always tell you guys this, because I think it's important for you guys to understand. You may think that because I say it, it's not, I'm just talking, right? But it does mean a lot. So, there were times where the flight attendant would walk up to me and say, "Hey, are you the head coach here?" And I'd say, "Yes." And the flight attendant would say, "Well, I just want to tell you, this is the most disciplined, polite team. We do this a lot. We go on a lot of trips, and this is the most disciplined, polite team that we've been around." Right? Well, that made me feel really proud, and a lot of gratification came from that. That's who you guys were. Now, we were having a lot of success on the field, no doubt about it. So it's easy to kind of get a little big headed and things like that, and not think that the little things are important, but they are. And I think that all that discipline that we had with that stuff, I think helped us in our preparation and helped in our details, and I think really gave us a mindset of mental toughness. And I think we took a lot of pride in those things, and then it wasn't just me, it was you guys holding each other accountable for those type of things, because you knew they were important. And so, um, but it was important to tell you guys that, hey, listen, this is what happened, both good and bad. When there would be some, questionable things that would happen, I get an email talking about, hey, some guys were too loud at a party and kept us up at night. And, you know, I would read that to the team as well. Of look, you have neighbors; they have to go to work, their kids have to go to school. You have to understand and respect their space. And so the good and the bad to think about other people. And so I think that's one of the things that would really help us overall in our appreciation for the people who gave us support. And I think, and I know has carried on. Now that I'm old, I have a lot of former players and they're running businesses and things like that, have staffs of their own, and they tell me now, now they're in their mid 40s and they have kids, and how they run their companies are with the same values, really. So I think that's a really important aspect of a program, is the discipline of the small things.
Yeah, and I think just this is an awesome time to kind of take a moment and just really just kind of applaud you for your ability to kind of preach those messages. I know that's something I had just the utmost respect for, you being able to kind of preach that. And you're known for all the one-liners and everything, that as far as just like, hey, just do your job and everything will take care of itself. Or even just the idea of the critical 48, or the standards of standard, and holding the rope, and all these different things. And honestly, I was thinking about it leading up into our podcast. I was like, it's kind of biblical in a sense, to where it's like a lot of times people will talk just to talk, but there's something about being able to illustrate stories and kind of explain it that way, to where it really leaves a lasting impact, to where I remember all the stories and the lessons that were told and shared through that. And I know one of the things is that's just forever ingrained, if anyone's ever been in a team locker room with you, is just as a player, it's like, hey, our job is to grind, refine, and compete. And then for the coaches, they all know it's grind into their heads. It's like, you teach, critique, demand. And I think that's just one of the many things you have. But like, where did do your job come from? And where did grind, refine, compete come from?
Well, a lot of years of coaching and taking things from people who coach me, or people um, that I work for, um, or with, over time, of just kind of taking that all in on what things were important and valuable. And, so the standard, it needs to be defined, though. I think one of the mistakes is you have expectation without defining the standard or what the expectations are. And so the standard is just really doing your best, right? Whatever that may be, it's just reaching your full potential, or striving to, on a daily basis, right? So we would always talk about reaching our full potential in all areas: academically, athletically, socially, spiritually, all those things. And so to reach your full potential, the standard is set by what what the expectation is, right? And I think it's really important for people to understand that. The teach, critique, and demand thing is really the coach's job. And so when we're defining expectation, and so I just wouldn't tell the coaches that was their job. Everyone knew their job, knew what the coaches' jobs were, and what the players' jobs were. So I could ask the whole team, what's a coach's responsibility? And they would say, teach, critique, and demand. So then they knew that that's the coach's job, and that was defined for them. And that's what they're expected to do. So don't be surprised in the teaching. Don't be surprised by the critique, and don't be surprised by the demand of adhering to the standard, of making sure that the attention to details there, that the effort's there. So those things were ingrained into the coaches, and the players knew it, right? So in teaching, there are elite meetings and there are deliberate practices, and it's a learning culture and communication. In critique, needs to you need to correct them. They need to know what's going on, right? And sometimes it needs to be verbal. It needs to be out loud so everyone can hear it, so everyone's getting the same lesson. It needs to be exact and precise and repetitive, right? It needs to go over and over and over again. So critique was one of them, and then demanding is making sure the effort and the competitiveness and the attention to detail is there all the time, right? So those are things that understanding that we're doing things for a reason every single day, because a coach can take players places that they can't take themselves. That's what a coach's real job is. But it falls into those categories: teach, critique, and demand. And then the player's job is to grind, refine, and compete. And those type of things. The grind part is the mindset and the attitude and the effort. And, I used to talk, because sometimes I would hear some guys say, I got to do that. Or if you do anything, I got to do that. Right? No, you get to do that. And so to set the attitude of E instead of O, right, is a mindset of I get to do this instead of I got to do that. Because you're going to go into something with a much different attitude if your mindset is I get to do that. And so, but the grinding is a mindset. It really is. And then the refining part is just obsessed with the precision and the detail of what we're doing. Um, every single rep of, whether it be in meetings or whether it be in the weight room or whatever it is, you're just always refining to be better. And then the compete is really to have, not just with yourself or not just with the opponents, but with yourself. Of you're competing every day to be your best. And you have an iron will determination to overcome things and get through hard things, because it's not easy. It's very challenging to do what they do. Right. But you can take this with any background, any job, anything. You can take all these things. I think they're really important. But to build supreme confidence through all of these things, because confidence is really key, and confidence comes from um, successes, previous successes. And I would always tell you guys, hey, if you're struggling, flick back and flick up to the front of your mind of the times that you've had a lot of success, the best plays you've ever had, and put those things in your mind, right? And so it's a total belief. If you do all the things that you need to do, their belief in your fundamentals, their belief in your techniques, your assignments, through all your hard work, you're going to have confidence because of that. I used to tell you guys, I don't know if you remember this, but when I was a player back in the day, because I think mindset is so important, and your attitude of where you get your confidence from is through those details and not taking shortcuts. And I'm a firm believer in that. I remember when I was playing, whether it be high school, junior college, or pro football, and I'd be out training and I'd be running through the neighborhood, right? And you get to a corner and there's a gas station at the corner, right? And so there's a shortcut between the pumps, and you can cut the corner, or you can run all the way to the end of the street where the light is and turn and go down, right? Well, pretty easy to cut through there, but are you going to get any more physical fitness out of running an extra 20 yards or 40 yards or whatever? Probably not, if you're out running 2-3 miles. But the mental stability that you get by the detail of not taking a shortcut, to me, was huge, right? And that comes in every day that you guys do things. I have so much admiration for what goes on, of people so driven to get there at 5:45, 6 o'clock in the morning every day, and do the things that we have to do to be mentally driven and ready and prepared to go through meetings and go get there on time for breakfast, and all those little things about not just get there on time, but be present, right? Mentally present. And I think those are the things, taking notes at 6:45 in the morning is not always really easy to do, right? But I think those are the things mentally that overcome and create the mental toughness and the confidence that you have prepared the best you possibly can. And so that goes back to the coaches holding you guys accountable for being demanding to adhere to the standard, right? Because we know at the end of the day, when it comes game time, it's going to be easy. Practices were very hard, like you say. Practices were hard because it was our job to make sure that there was deliberate practice that was very difficult, so the games were easy.
Yeah, and I think you guys did an awesome job, and I feel like that was one of the biggest lessons I got from being at Fresno State during my time too, is that practice was intentionally very designed that way. Now that I'm looking back on it, to be difficult, but not only that, it's just the competitive culture that you guys created, to where we still talk about it to this day. If I talk with Jeff Allison, Mike Bell, Juju, like if we lost to them at the end of practice in 2 minutes, the offense was pissed. Like it felt like the Mount West championship, and that's a credit to the coaches from the top down, kind of creating that environment and then spreading to the players and us being able to kind of fully digest that. And I mean, you've had such just a long career of just being around some of the greatest. I mean, even coaches. I mean, I know you've. I remember being in a meeting and you were talking about something in offense. You're like, yeah, I'm going to reach out to Bill. And you kind of kept talking. And we're like, Bill, like, who the heck is Bill? Like, and then he's like, oh, Belichick. And I was like, oh, sorry, coach. I didn't realize you're talking about Bill Belichick. And then like you have like Nick Saban and guys that you just have just in a phone call's reach. And not only that, just players. I mean, your time at Cal, I mean, you have Aaron Rodgers, Marshawn, D-Jack, Javid, like the list goes on and on and on of guys you've been around who've done it at an elite level. And just with all that context, I mean, like, what's the difference between just God-given talent and developed skill?
Yeah, first of all, with those guys, I watch them very closely. Those coaches like Belichick and Saban, and I wouldn't say I'm their best friend by any means, but I would try to learn because I think they're the best at what they do, and you know I've had some relationships with them over the years because of, especially Belichick, just because of the draft and things like that of players coming out and going back there and visiting them. Um, but I think the players that you talked about, um, it's a process. When you talk about having God's gift of talent, but then how do you get the best out of it? I think all those guys, you could have a lesson about all of them, because whether it be Aaron Rodgers or Marshawn Lynch or D-Jack, or you go on and on. I'm fortunate to have 6 first-round draft picks at quarterback. And so one of the things the quarterbacks all had, and you don't have to be, I've had a lot of great quarterbacks too, like yourself. Um, but they were all very, very competitive. The competitive nature was unbelievable in those guys, right? And extreme toughness. And so I think those are the building blocks. But it goes back to the preparation, that lack of preparation, no amount of talent can overcome a lack of preparation, because there's just too many people involved in the game. It's too detailed. It's a game of inches. So the discipline and the effort that it takes to be successful, it's not golf. It's not an individual sport. Your teammates are counting on you. You're a piece of the puzzle that goes in. You have an assignment that, if you know how it goes. I mean, as you have played, everything on the offense, there's 11 guys. 10 guys could be doing something exactly perfect and one guy not, and it's not going to work, right? So you have to depend on people to do their jobs. And so, and that comes back to the team aspect of it. And so I think the first part of being extremely talented is being extremely talented, but being being a team player. And I think through all the things that we do, it needs to fit into the team aspect of it. That it's not just about you, but and they care for each other, like building a family, right? I mean, it's becoming a band of brothers and having loyalty and having unity, and which builds positive relationships and just love and understanding of each other. You have to bring yourself to the point of being a teammate first, and so that's really important. But I think back to the point of, someone can be extremely talented, but I think it comes out as being of teaching and showing them, like what we need to do as teachers and coaches, we need to energize them, we need to engage them, and we need to educate them, right? And so the education piece and engaging them comes back to all the trust level things and all the things that we teach about the standard and things like that. And then the players hold themselves accountable for it, right? Like, I mean, all your teammates, you wanted to do things for your teammates, not necessarily for you as an individual, but you knew you were a part of something bigger, a team. And so, but it all comes back to the hard work, the detail. But from a coach's perspective, as far as I'm concerned, it's being proactive with educating them about the difference between this is the way you do it and this is why we don't do it this way. I think that's what's really important too. Of when we show the videos of things, this is why we don't do these things. This is why we would prefer to do it this way. Do you agree with that? Okay, and I'm going to give you an example about that that still kind of bugs me a little bit because I see it on TV all the time. Is I made a rule because I was watching TV and I would see or film and I could see where guys would have their t-shirt hanging out, right? Because it looked cool. Well, and then you'd see a guy's going to break for a touchdown and somebody grabs him by the t-shirt that's hanging out of his pants, right? Well, is that really necessary for that to happen? Or are we taking a risk here that football's so hard to win and every play is so critical about the success. And so we work so hard all year long. Is it really worth it? If you could, it comes down to one play and you could have broke for a touchdown to win the game and you get held up by your t-shirt hanging out of your pants, right? Is that worth it to look cool? And I'd say, what do you guys think? And to say, is it? You guys are the ones doing all the work. We all have a lot at stake here. It's about one play. You guys know that. So they would agree to it that, yeah, I know you're right. But inevitably, it'd have to go out there and tell people to tuck their shirts in, right? And so and I still see it today. It's a small detail, it's a small thing, but it's a game of inches, as you know, Marcus. And it's the discipline of even the great players, a lack of discipline or focus can cost you the game, right? Because it is a game of inches. We had a great receiver that worked in top 5 in the country, and we're running a post corner, and those things marry up so we go 7 steps, 5 steps 7 steps forward, 5 steps or 3 steps to the post, and then back to the corner. Okay. And then that times up with the correlation with the quarterback's drop, right? Well, we only took 5 steps instead of 7, 3 steps like we're supposed to. And by the time the quarterback was ready to throw it, he threw it. We scored a touchdown, came back on replay, and we were like, our foot was a quarter inch out of bounds because the timing was off, right? That was a great player who scored a touchdown, but it wasn't the discipline of what we needed. And so the small things about detail, about game of inches, we're in the top 5. We're going to be, probably second in the country at that time, and we lost. We're playing SC down in the Coliseum. We're undefeated. I think SC's won, and we're in the top 5. And we're running a shovel pass, and the tackle's supposed to take 3 kick steps so Aaron could shovel the ball underneath and then go to the backer to get the end up the field. Well, he took 1 kick step, and we're first and goal from the 9, and we're going to beat SC, who's number 1 in the country, and takes 1 kick step and goes to the backer, and the end collapses. Aaron has nowhere to shovel the ball. We have to take a sack, right? So the details of, I don't care how great you are, how great Aaron is, he can't overcome someone else not being disciplined about what their job is, right? And so, at least in that case, he couldn't. Sometimes he does, sometimes he does, and sometimes you can by making a guy miss or something like that. But it still all comes back to that. No matter how special you are, it's the details because it's a team game. It's not golf. It's football.
Yeah. No, and I feel like you've definitely just you've made your presence known in college football and kind of left your mark and legacy as obviously as an offensive guru and being able to do that and me being a product of that and understanding it's like you do such a good job of presenting the offense and not only getting the quarterbacks to understand it, but it's like I feel like there's a certain growth and maturity quarterbacks hit where it's like my first year, I feel like you're kind of like, okay, what's going on? And you just understand what's happening. And then you kind of take that second year to grow in the system and understand, okay, well, why is he actually calling this? What's he trying to attack? What's the situation? And just that growth that's happening, but more so talking to maybe a junior high or a high school kid right now. What are some almost, you don't want to call them expectations, but in a sense, what expectations do you have for young athletes, incoming freshmen, to struggle with at the Division I level?
I think time management is key because there is such a the dedication has to be there, and there's only so many hours in the day. And so number one, I think you have to have great character to come in to know that you're going to be compliant, not defiant. That the people there have done things, and if it's done right and they're explained for a reason, then you understand the reason why. But in order to have the growth that you talked about, you have to be open minded to doing things differently. Your high school coach may have taught you to do it this way. Well, now you go somewhere else and they're teaching you to do something different. Well, you have to be open minded and try to do what they're teaching, and then uh, the time management thing I think is so critical of understanding. You talked about the critical 48, right? Of the critical 48 is the 48 hours before a game, that your rest is imperative, your hydration is imperative, um, your mindset, your focus, all of it, total sacrifice. And so there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into being a Division I athlete, football player, I'll say, right? Because it's so demanding, it's so hard, um, because there's the physical part of it, there's the mental part of it, there's the emotional part of it. Um, it's something new, and it's now you've gone to a place where maybe you were at a certain level in high school that you were better than everyone, and now you get to college and it's very competitive. Everybody is at that level. So you have to really work to improve. You talked about your growth. I'll say your growth and development, because when you're a freshman, you come in, it wasn't just the physical attributes that you needed to improve on, be it the strength, um, whatever it may be, your size, your weight. Everybody's growing all the time, but it's the mental part of the game, and I think it's about the mental toughness. It's about the mental discipline that it takes to do what we do and to keep focus. And because it's hard, man. It's hard to do that. But once you get the I think the management of time down, of understanding what your routine is, and to know that you get to do it, going back to I get to instead of I got to, and having the attitude, I think is really, really important. But it's exciting. I mean, I just think it's so cool to be a part of a team, because not everybody gets a chance to do it. No matter what you're doing, whether you're the starter or whether you're not, it's such a critical and important experience that you can take forever. And those people in that locker room are going to be, the godparents of your children, the best man in your wedding. There's friendships that are, and the love and the understanding about, being able to cross bridges of whether it be social, racial, whatever, economic, you name it. It's such an awesome environment to be in. But it's a growing experience. It's about the process, because each level, if you go back and look at your experience, Marcus, I played football all my life. And so going from, let's just go back to high school, or or junior high school, I got cut off my off my junior high school flag football team. I didn't even make the team, but I played Pop Warner. And then, but getting into high school from a freshman to a sophomore to varsity, let's say, all right, or freshman football, junior varsity, and varsity. The speed of the game and everybody's growing and it's the speed of the game's increasing. And then I went to junior college and it was one more step. And then you went from junior college to college and or university, and that was another step. And then you go play pro football. It's really about how fast the game's moving, right? And how your mind processes things. But to know that it is a process, that you're not going to get it on day one, that there's going to be a lot of setbacks and there's going to be adversity, which is another important tool that football teaches is how to deal with those things. And if you remember, like on Friday night meetings before games, we wouldn't necessarily talk about football all the time. There'd be a little piece of it of keys to victory that we would talk about, but the main message was about life in general, whether it be, things to make us better and the importance of team or sacrifice or overcoming adversity, which is really more about life than it is about football at that point. So those messages were intended to teach life skills and how to manage, whether it be the stress of looking at the big picture too much instead of focus on the small things, right? And trying to decrease stress and just, those type of things of teaching life skills through those Friday night meetings. I thought was very important to kind of break the monotony of all football, football, football. But you can take these other things and it's going to pertain to football. And you guys probably didn't know it, but I would have all those things kind of put off to the side. But there were different messages per whatever our experience was the week before. Whether it was a big win and I thought we were maybe getting a little bit full of ourselves and we needed to kind of refocus, that we could get sabotaged here or whatever, about and having something with the military that kind of did that, or what have you, right? I would try to do those things that was pertinent to the situation we were in at the time, or we were going into a game that no one gave us an opportunity, no one gave us a chance to win, right? And so you'd go in, there would be examples of wars or conflict where people would go in with 5 people against, 1,000, and just things like that, right? Of those were what those things were meant to be, and I know I'm probably going off track here on what you asked me, but I think all those things are critical. But the experience of being on a team and and understanding how privileged you are to do it with all the guys you're around, I think is a really cool thing.
Yeah, no, and that's you covered so much there as far as just, I mean, that experience and being able to read the program to us every Friday night. And just for you, I don't know if I've ever personally told you this, but I mean, you could feel appreciated and a sense of gratitude to where I know there's about 4 or 5 guys from that team that I'm still in contact with, that we all have the original copies and we call it the Tedford Bible from the
Ah.
program. We have all those from every single week. I should have brought it out. It's in my closet in my room. It's from every week, and I'll randomly like look at it, and I made little marks and stuff. And it's cool to look back on it and just think, okay, now I'm reading it now. I have 3 kids, I'm married, and I'm in a different stage of life. Like, what am I taking from this message now versus what did I take from that message when I was a player? So that is definitely something that's appreciated. And I know the guys, we have a good time when we bring that up too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so cool to see it. It's so gratifying, to watch all of you guys grow and develop, and football is going to end at some point for everybody, right? And so you take those experiences, those friendships, and learn really valuable lessons that you can take on in your life, whether it be for your children, or people that you work with or manage or what have you. And but one of the things that we try to take pride in was this is a lifelong thing, and to try to make you guys better fathers, better husbands, those type of things. And that really came down to what we talked about in the very beginning of this, common courtesy and respect for others. And um, so I'm really happy to hear that you still have those things. And I may call you sometime if I need a little advice on something since you
Yeah.
have them all. I don't think I still have them.
Yeah, no, we got the original copy still, so it's going to be worth something. So we kept on to it. But and kind of the last couple questions, and we'll kind of let you run. But I mean, just we've talked a lot of it's interesting. I feel like there's such an emphasis and a common theme, and I try not to be repetitive on the podcast, but every time I talk about young player development, the conversation somehow finds its way to character development. And it's not even so much, it's never technical skills or this is your routine or this is how it should be. It always somehow comes back to character, and that's how you overall become a better athlete. And I mean, in your opinion, how does character development improve player development?
Well, because I think character development is critical, right? Because there's subsets of character, that have effort and caring about your teammates and um, effort in what you do and detail of what you do and decisions that you make. All those things, I think, the decision piece of your character, I think, is really, really important because um, it's not just when you're at the facility that your character's critical. We kind of talked about it early on, um, but understanding how critical it is and being a good person. Because I used to think also that, you know, if you're making good decisions, it takes a lot of stress out of your life. Because if you make poor decisions, and I think character is is the foundation for good decision making. And if you make poor decisions, at least in football or life around football, there tends to be a lot of drama in your life, right? Because you were late to a meeting or you did something wrong off the field or you didn't go to class or you punched somebody or you weren't trustworthy, all those things cause drama. And I think the stress level is much less if you know that your character, that you're doing things the best you can for the right reasons all the time. Not that you're going to be perfect, because you're not. No one is. And that's part of the growth and development and growing up. And the process is making mistakes. But they need to be ones that you can overcome. Because when people make poor decisions, and I gave you guys a lot of stories about people that weren't so fortunate that when their character um, wasn't quite what it needed to be, when they compromised their character, a poor decision happened and it changed your life for the work for really, really um, heartbreaking things of people, having things happen to them um, that affected their life for a long time. Be it, getting in a fight, being thrown in jail, not treating, not dealing with drugs and alcohol the right way, of making good decisions there, having respect for women, all those type of things. Character is such a big part of it. It's not just about football, and it's not just about reaching your full potential there. And that's why I said academically, athletically, socially, spiritually, all those things are important in your growth and development. And you can rely on each one of those, but your character ends up, I think, having a lot to do with the decisions that you make. So that's why character is so important. Of Again, I'm going to say you don't have to be perfect because no one is, right? But I really believe that having strong character and treating people the right way. So you could take academically and talk about academic character, that you're not going to cheat, you're not going to plagiarize, you're going to do the work that it takes to accomplish something, right? Because somebody has poor character, makes a bad decision or a poor decision, academically and they plagiarize, what happens to them, right? Then they're ineligible, and then they're got a lot of stress in their life, right? Athletically, you take shortcuts. Athletically, you're not doing what you need to do. You're not going to be successful. Um, Socially, I mean, you could go on and on socially about, what happens with poor character. And so anyway, it's, I really believe that it's important, it's valuable. And it comes down to, and then at the end, the spiritual part. I've seen so many times where kids making a transition from high school to college. It's a tough time. It's a challenging time between 17 and 23 and 24 years old. There's a lot of things to figure out in life for young people. And I would say that I have seen so many people that spiritually have brought themselves, that has given them the answers to what they're looking for. Right. And so there's a lot of stress involved in trying to be successful in school, trying to reach the expectations academically, trying to socially fit in and do the right things and find out, who are you, and relationships and all those type of things that go on. It's hard to reach the expectation in football, of what people expect of you and you accomplishing your goals, all those things. But then you get spiritually, that has brought it all together for a lot of people, right? That have given them something stronger than themselves to hang on to and to rely on and to trust in and have faith in. I've seen it over and over again with that. And so that's why I say all that. You asked about character, but I think it all encompasses around all those things: academic, athletic, socially, spiritually, are all a subset of strong character.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I mean, this has been, I mean, honestly, a master class on kind of character and kind of how that correlates to football and how taking care of the small details leads to obviously the bigger picture when you're just taking care of the day to day. And the way I always like to finish the podcast and kind of wrap up is just in a scenario, say, for instance, for whatever reason, I forgot to hit record. This whole podcast got erased. We didn't have any of it, but this last little section. And
Yeah.
if this was a scenario in the case, I mean, if a young athlete, a parent, or a coach, I mean, remembers one lesson from you, what should it be?
The lesson would be, there's a lot of them, but it's treat others as you would like to be treated, because I think that comes down to the relationships, the respect, that everyone deserves, and take the time to uh, express concern, right? Understand, have trust level to build the confidence, and know that it's a process. This is a process, and do your best to surround yourself with good people to make good decisions, right? Because that's going to carry it into everything, I believe. And I was so fortunate to have great coaches growing up that took the time to care about me. And um, so it's a process for the kids out there that are going through it. Understand you're gonna get knocked down a lot, but keep at it. Stay at it. Keep trying, keep striving for the standard of just doing your best every day. Don't get caught up on all the negative stuff. Just keep looking forward, right? And then tomorrow's a new day, and keep the focus small. Don't overwhelm yourself by what you need to be 4 years from now. Just take one day at a time and do your very best and make good decisions. And for parents to understand that this is a small time of their life, and to provide the emotional support and the guidance for young people, um, because they're trying to get through a tough time in their life, right? A lot of growth going on and a lot of challenges. And so to be supportive of what's going on and be there for them and listen to them, and, and really be a productive listener, be an active listener to where you're really understanding what they're trying to say, right? Because if they can do that, they're going to be much better people for it. They're going to make better decisions if you can be in their life and really understand what they're going through. And so It's a process for sure. I would say that. And I would say just keep striving, just stay at it. And, you know, it's the spiritual part of it, I think, is really, really key. And, and making good decisions every day, making good decisions about what you're doing. And, and I think you'll be successful if you do that, because that's going to go into the character piece.
Yeah, definitely. Well, no, Coach Tedford, I just want to, say thank you. Thank you. Not only for this podcast, but for the wins, the championships, the rings, and I think, but more than that, just thank you for just the standard. Just a message I could live with for the rest of my life and hopefully pass down to my kids one day. And just the way you showed us how you do anything is how you do everything, and that details matter, that you are who you are when no one's watching eventually shows up in your life at some point. And for, I think, the young athletes that are listening, and for the parents walking this journey alongside them, this is what real development looks like. Talent might open the door, but discipline, habits, humility, and consistency are what kind of keep you in the room. And Coach, I know you've always said your goal wasn't just to coach football players, but to help turn young boys into men and prepare them for life beyond the game. And speaking from personal experience, that impact lasts a long while after the final whistle. The last game I played at Fresno State was a Vegas Bowl, and those messages and lessons definitely carry on way past that. So we're grateful for your time, your wisdom, the legacy you continue to build, one player, one lesson at a time, one standard at a time. Coach Tedford, I appreciate you joining us. I can't thank you enough for just all the memories and lasting things I could share with not only my kids, but on a lighter note, thank God I played during a time where there was video so I could show it to them one day.
Yeah, well, thank you, Marcus. Very well said, by the way. And you said a lot better than I could. It was, back in the day, I used to prepare for all that stuff. It kind of caught me off guard a little bit, but it. I'm sure glad that you locked onto those values, and that you live them. It's not something that you just talk about; that you live them. And I want to say thank you for everything that you're doing, even for doing this to try to help young people grow and develop. And so couldn't be prouder of you, man. You're awesome. Thank you for all you did on the football field, for all you did off the field, for creating such a positive example for everybody through everything that you did every single day in all walks of your life. You're a perfect example of all the things that we've talked about. So you're the best, man. I appreciate you. Thank you very much. And happy holidays to you and your family.
Yep. Yes, sir. Happy holidays, Coach. I appreciate that so much. And everyone listening, whether you're chasing a scholarship, building habits, or just trying to become the best version of yourself, remember the work you put in today is always preparing you for tomorrow. Until next time, Sathlete Country Club. Appreciate you guys. Thanks.